Good evening, guys. You're on live with the Royal We. I'm just going to wait a minute, give some time here for some people to jump on. Okay. Put my Final Fantasy together, put my earpiece in here. Good evening, guys. Good evening. 10 o'clock p.m. Good evening. Hi there. Hi, Shannon. How are you? Hi, Karen. Hi, Lynette. Shamia. Hi there. How are you guys? Hi, Dory. Hi, Miss Yetta Joy. Yola. How are you? Lisa. Bennett from Texas. How are you? Gamer. Sophia. Hola. How are you? Steven. Karen. Hi, guys. Good evening. Good evening. Happy Thursday night. Hi, Brazilian girl. Hey, what's going on? All right, the Royal We family. How are you guys? I'm so glad that you are here, and we're going to get started. Hi, Laura. How are you? St. Louis is in the house. Jackie. Pia. How are you guys? Holly. It's very good to see you guys. It's good to see all of you guys here. Hi, Dee. Hi, Dory. There you all are coming on in. Hello, Julianne, Raquel, Joanna. Joanne, how are you? Brian from Chicago. What's up, man? Thank you guys so much. Thank you for joining, and thank you for being here, guys. We're going to go ahead and get rolling. Thank you for being on the Royal We Live. For those of you guys who are new to the Royal We Live tonight, if you're watching on YouTube, you will be able to see the telephone number to call in scrolling at the bottom of the screen. The calls are in real time. You're welcome to contact me anytime throughout this show, and know that you are going to be on YouTube Live, so be cautious of your words. Filter your words. You can remain anonymous. You don't have to use your actual name, of course, and we all look forward to your phone calls. A couple of good things about calling live and talking with us and sharing your experience, sharing your trouble, and sharing your questions is that it's healing for you as a person to be able to voice what's going on in your life and to be able to put a voice and find some resolve within yourself. It's also good for the listeners, right? Your questions help other people. When it comes down to it, we all have experienced similar situations, and it's very good to hear somebody else is going through or has gone through a similar experience. It makes you feel less alone. So by calling and by talking to me, you're actually helping a lot of people, right? And I know a lot of you being empaths have that heart. You want to help people. You want to know, how can I help somebody else? And I get that question a lot. Sometimes when I'm talking to people on the phone, just throughout the day, they often say, hey, I want to be able to help people, right? Well, this is a platform to do that. And with that, guys, I also want to put out the warning. I have to do this every show, guys, that we are going to be talking about narcissistic abuse, which is an adult subject matter. So viewer discretion is advised. I want to put out this warning that this is most likely 18 and above content. All right, we will be dealing with a serious nature and a serious subject matter, guys. All right, so with that out of the way, I'm going to go ahead. The phone line is open, and I hope that you guys are having a great Thursday. And I do have some email questions that I received that I also want to talk about. So I'm going to go ahead and, while you guys are thinking about whether or not you want to call, I want to go ahead and answer an email question. This is a good one. It deals with a very difficult thing to talk about and even understand, and that's soul ties. And this comes from a YouTube comment on one of the videos on the Empath Survival Guide video that I put out there. This subscriber says, thank you for this video, very powerful. I have two questions. Soul ties. What are they and how to break the unhealthy ones? Also, when you suggest that we take things in and immediately get them out, how do you find works best for you to do that? I'm going to answer this in reverse, actually. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about how to take things in and get it out. So for those of you who have not seen the video on that I put out there on the Empath Survival Guide, I talked a lot about how we have a heightened sense of discernment. It's part of the gift of being An empath, a lot of times you can walk into a room and you can feel the presence of something gone wrong, right? You can tell when somebody's upset. You can tell, you have a heightened sense, okay? And it oftentimes makes you this person who's rushing to the aid of somebody else. So what happens is you can take on a lot of this stuff. You can take on a lot of garbage from somebody else, okay, whether or not you know it. And a lot of times you think you're doing a good thing. You're listening to them. Maybe you're crying with somebody. Maybe you're praying with somebody, or you're just being a listening ear. You're actually, as they're speaking into you, they are kind of speaking into you. You can kind of take some of this on you, right? And you can kind of start to wear this. You can take this in. So it's important, as I mentioned in the video, to get it out as fast as you can, right? So how do you get it out? How do you get some things out that you, as an empath or as a highly discerning, empathetic person, take in? How do you get it out? Well, you get it out by sharing, right? You have to share it, and then you share it differently. You don't share it in a way in which you are gossiping about what's been spoken about. Okay, you share it in just a private moment. You be able to just say, "Hey, will you? I need to get some stuff out. I feel bad. I was talking with somebody. It was a horrible experience, and I just kind of want to shake some of that stuff off, right? And then let somebody kind of just love on you, right, for a moment. Let somebody pray over you, right? Get it out. Or in your own life, personal time, prayer time. Just pray over yourself, or meditate. Something to release that energy that you have listened to somebody else. You've taken some of that off. Take some time to immediately let that go, right? Otherwise, you can carry that stuff with you. And so now let's talk about soul ties, right? Soul ties is something that people often want to know about, especially when it comes to narcissistic abuse. There's a lot of people who indicate that it does have something to do with some kind of a soul tie. And so what I did is I went online just to look up from some study tools on what a soul tie is and how it's formed, and because it's kind of deep, and this is what I found. And this, of course, when we're talking about things of the soul and of the spirit, you're really going to be looking for answers that obviously are going to come from a theological understanding, right? A soul tie or a spiritual tie is not necessarily something that a doctor can diagnose for you. Okay, so this is something that you're going to have to turn to a theological standpoint to understand what a soul tie is. So we'll go ahead and we'll look at what the Bible has to say about a soul tie. And now it does talk about the soul ties as being very real. A soul tie is when two people are bound together. And what's interesting is that it indicates that there's different ways in which people can become bound together in an energy level, in an understanding, in a conscious place of being tied together. There's three factors that can form soul ties that, according to a theological standpoint, guys. The first is a sexual relationship. This is an obvious big one, okay? Anytime you intertwine with somebody sexually, you're sharing not only your body with the person, but there's a lot of energy that's being exchanged, a lot of intimacy, a lot of vulnerability, stuff that can create and cause an immediate attachment, a soul tie. And they have some scriptures in here from a theological standpoint that backs this up. So from the ancient perspective, this is what they're trying to tell us, that, first of all, a physical relationship is meant for a husband and a wife. It's part of what joins them together. In that context, in a husband and wife context, it's a good thing. You want to become one, right? It's indicated the two will become one flesh. So a soul tie is essentially a part of that becoming one. Okay. There's also other areas in the Bible where, as warnings, okay, in the book of Mark, a person has an ungodly sexual relationship with another person, an ungodly soul tie is formed. 1 Corinthians, it talks about being joined to a harlot or a prostitute, in which case, again, you're getting into intertwining and creating this soul tie, this energy, this need, this desire, this connection with somebody who or in a situation you're not supposed to be in. It's creating this soul tie where you're not supposed to have one, right? And it can really cause a lot of problems in someone's life. So, but that's just one. Sexual relationships is just one. There's also close relationships, okay? Friendships. Friendships can also cause soul ties. There's an indication here, King David, again, from a theological standpoint. Jonathan had a soul tie as a friendship. In 1 Samuel, it talked about how how he was talking about the friendship. It was like there was they were knitted together in the soul. They thought alike. There was an intense love there that wasn't physical, but it was a very adoration, right? And this falls into, and we got to be careful, because when it comes to close relationships, we can start to fall into idolizing somebody. So when you idolize somebody, and that's where this theology is going. When you idolize a friendship, or when you idolize a person, you're creating a soul tie, right? A very spiritual connection, a bond through the idolization. And this is also backed up, and you can see this in the everyday world, how people start to fall in love with their favorite rock bands or their movie stars or whatever, and they really feel like, oh my gosh, they're my world, and they've got a soul tie. There's some kind of a spiritual soul tie, and sometimes over time it falls away and breaks away, which is good. Sometimes it causes people to act out and do crazy things, which is not so good. But in either case, there's that soul tie, okay? Another one, the third way to have a soul tie created is through commitments and vows and agreements. You may not realize this, but when you agree with somebody to do something, when you commit yourself, right? When you make promises to people, you're creating a soul tie. All right. Have you ever made a promise and then weren't able to fulfill it, so you kind of tried to run? It didn't quite leave your mind right away, did it? Kind of sticks in you, right? Well, because there's that soul tie. You know that an agreement was made. You know that a commitment is there. It exists. You can't see it. You can't touch it, but it's between you and that other person. It's a connection. Okay. So now let's talk about how to break soul ties, because that was the question. Now that we got that out of the way. So the three main things that we can look at that create soul ties: one, sexual activity, and can create soul ties between people. Friendships that border on the idolizing side, that can create a soul tie. And then the third one, anytime you make a vow and a commitment, right? This is why I believe in the Bible, Jesus said, let your yes be yes and your no be no. Right? Don't make promises, not by your head or by anything else, because it gets you into dicey situations. Okay. So that being said, how do you break them? Well, there's a couple of things. In everything that is talked about in this article has to do with you doing something within yourself to break the soul tie. So it has to do with the fact that if there was fornication, right, that was involved, if it was sexual activity, that you learn how to forgive yourself, that you break that. You understand that you're not going to be able to externally break the soul tie. The soul tie is not something you can have somebody else involved with you break it for you. You have to break it, meaning you have to forgive yourself. Maybe you have to speak out about something. Maybe you have to come forward and be honest about something going on in your life, right? Soul ties tend to exist, especially bad soul ties. They can exist in dark, secretive places, right? That's where they stay attached. But the more you talk and you can get something out, you can start to get that soul tie out and allow it the chance to be broken, okay? So that's one. So if you are involved in sexual activity you shouldn't be in, then it's good to bring that out. Maybe talk to somebody you trust, get some prayer over the situation, try to figure out a way to get out of that environment and forgive yourself. Work on forgiving yourself. Make amends if you need to, but forgive yourself. But you need to quit that interaction. All right. As far as any commitments that were made or any types of agreements, you know what I mean? That it says here, saying things like "I'll love you forever" or "I can never love any other person like you." If you've made these types of agreements, or "I'll do this for you, I'll do that," and these things can kind of exist and stay with you, right? Then you need to renounce them. You need to reverse them and say, no, that's incorrect, right? That's what this article says. if there's a person, if you have something against another person, another way to get rid of the soul tie, and this plays a huge role in our issue with narcissistic abuse, is to forgive that person. Okay? And this is a lot of where we're at with abusive narcissists. They have hurt us, they hurt you, they've stolen from you, they've robbed you, they have done all kinds of damage to you. But again, what keeps you attached a lot of times is that the fact that it's very unjust, yes, but it's that you're hanging on and holding on to two types of hope. Hope that maybe something will work out, that they'll come to their senses and apologize for everything, and which in a way you feel would bring justice back into the situation. Or two, that you will somehow find them in a place of them getting revenge. Okay? And you're on the royal we. Give me 1 second to wrap this up here. So you want to be able to forgive them, right? You don't want to think in them in terms of them wanting to get revenge on them, right? That's keeping a soul tie in place. So, all right, guys. So I hope that helps out, and I hope that helps the subscriber who asked about soul ties. And we're going to go ahead and take this call. You're live on the royal we.
Hi there. This is Baseball Girl. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. Thank you for calling.
I'm actually calling because what you're saying and everything you're talking about right now, it kind of touches on me, because I feel like sexually moving forward in my life, somewhere in the future, it's going to be really hard. And I don't know if anybody else has experienced this. I'm not trying to put myself out there. It's kind of embarrassing to think, but kind of like when the 50 Shades of Grey movie came out, that's like a joke to me, because like 50 Shades of Grey is like, I can show you 100 Shades of Black. I mean, we kind of went into some really dark, I mean, I'm just being honest with you, like places I've never been before. I went out to a date with him in the city in San Francisco. I thought we were going to a church, and it wasn't a church. It was actually the old San Francisco Armory building. It turned out to be something that was purchased by kink.com, which is basically like pornographic for BDSM and all this other stuff.
Okay.
However, we just went really dark places, you know, like I've never been before. He always pushed the boundaries and kept going and going and going into other stuff. And I kind of feel like sexually I'm not normal now because of that. So like if I talk to anybody new, I don't even want to talk to anybody, because a couple guys that I have talked to recently, I just shut them down, because once I tell them like, oh my gosh, I have a costume for every night of the year, or some stupid comment like that, like that's about how crazy we were. That's all they think about. That's all they can think about. And that's not part of me. That's not really who I am. But moving forward, I think I just don't know if anybody else has experienced some of the stuff that I have, or if their narc even pushed them sexually like that.
No, you know,
like he was.
Yeah, no, actually, and you're in the right place. Okay, you're in a good place to be able to share this stuff, and I hear this a lot from women. Yeah, I've been taking phone calls. Absolutely. I've been taking phone calls for almost a year now. My subscriber base is predominantly women, and so I hear these stories. I do. I hear them, and it's not uncommon, obviously, with narcissistically abusive.
It's embarrassing.
It is embarrassing.
I'm so embarrassed even saying it out loud. Like it
but
really
don't,
is.
because you're gonna break it.
I just feel like I'm not gonna be normal.
No.
Like sexually, I'll never be normal.
Stay with me here, okay? Because this is what happens, right?
Okay.
We're gonna talk a little bit about humanity and the addictive nature, okay? And I am actually getting ready to put out a couple videos on addiction. This plays a huge role in it. And now I understand that there are different forms of addiction. We have dopamine, things like that. We also have adrenaline. Okay, dopamine is our pleasurable. It's our reward center. But they're learning more about dopamine as actually a motivational chemical. We all have it. So not only does it make you feel good, but it motivates you. Your dopamine is being released after you do something to make you want to do it again and again and again. Now, we also have addictions with adrenaline, and we know this is true because we have people who skydive, people who do extreme biking and motorsports and go out and hurt themselves, and they want to do more. They want to push it and push it and push it. And so what happens when you're introduced to a world of this type of romantic new things with your body or with a narcissist? Because, and I want to share something with you. This is important for you to understand. I do talk to women who are married, I'm going to put this out there, who are married and get themselves wrapped up outside of marriage with a guy. Okay? Happens all the time. And what happens, one of the things that happens in this dynamic is that the guy doesn't care about the woman. He sees her as a sexual object, a conquest. He knows that she's married. He's not responsible for her. He's not responsible for what happens to her. He essentially doesn't care. So he's going to push and push and push, knowing that the woman is something's happening, something exciting is happening for her. He's going to push it and push it. So it's not uncommon that in these situations, the sex gets very rough. Things with physical nature become very, very rough. Hair pulling, slapping, hitting, choking, tying them up. Okay? And what's happening inside of the woman is they're experiencing now an adrenaline rush, this surge of adrenaline, because on multiple levels. One, you're doing something you know you shouldn't be doing. So instantly there's a adrenaline rush of, I hope nobody finds out. Then you're being slapped or you're having your hair pulled, and there's different pain things going on. So there's adrenaline being mixed in with the dopamine. All right? And so now you've got this chemical addiction going on. Now suddenly the idea of a normal, healthy sexual relationship sounds almost boring. And a lot of times these women don't.
Vanilla, very vanilla. Like, I'm afraid of vanilla now. I'm like, I don't do vanilla.
So you're afraid.
We went all the way to the point where he was doing the strangulation thing, and I passed out one time, and he had to kind of revive me, and then he didn't want to go there anymore. But it was he got me to the point where I actually liked it, and it's kind of sick to say, like, oh my God, what's vanilla about now? I don't even know. I don't think I'll ever be normal. That's just how I'm feeling right now. And of course, I'm only 6 days of no contact, but that's what I'm going off of. Like, oh, your new girl, there's no way in hell she's given him what I gave him. So I want to stop saying that, but that's how I'm feeling. I don't know.
It's very difficult, and I take it you're single. You're not married? You're single?
Yeah, I am single.
Okay. And so
I was with him for 10 years.
Listen, here's what's going to have to happen. You're going to have to, first of all, with addiction, you're going to have to find intensity in other things to rival that, because this can start to become, well, there's nothing intense. Nothing as intense as being choked out and being, having my butt slapped hard and, whatever you guys are into, put ball in your mouth, tied up, whatever, it doesn't matter. But you have to break that as being the most intense, exciting thing, and you've got to go out, push yourself in your limits in other things, right? You have to redirect that adrenaline because your body craves that adrenaline. This is why people go out and skydive, and then they try that. Then they do dumb things like go halfway from here to the moon and parachute down. You know what I mean? And put a Red Bull sticker on it and say, you know what I mean? It's just people pushing their limits because of what's going on, and you have to be aware of this, because if you don't stop, if you don't understand that chemical need, there's no telling how far you will go. And again, I want you to understand that the guy that's involved with you in this does not care about you. He has no problem choking you out, making you pass out, slapping you around, pulling your hair, tying you up, making you do things that you otherwise wouldn't do forcefully, right? Knowing that if something goes wrong, oops, well, I didn't, you know what I mean? That it was a total accident, but it's no loss to him. Do you understand that? Which is why, and I try to get women to understand this who are married, the reason their husbands don't do that thing is because there's actually love there, okay? But what I tell women who are in married situations, who gotten themselves wrapped up in this nasty mess, is I say you have got to now go back to that person you love, and you have to start to talk to them about this addiction, some of these needs. You have to start to tell them that you need some certain things, right? You have to try and bring that intensity where it belongs. So in your case, you're going to have to, in the future, as you date, patiently get to know people, right? But when you find that patient person, when you find a man for your life, and when you decide to get married, you may have to, for the sake of not ever going out on your husband to try to find what you're missing, you're going to have to be honest like you are right now, which is good, and I take it you will, and you're going to have to be able to talk to that man, right? And you're going to have to be able to say, hey, listen, by the way, I've got this freak side, and it's been there. I need to let you know that I need you to work with me on this, okay? And you may have to walk him to, I'm going to have you pull my hair. You know what I mean? This is where you get to have that open communication with somebody who you love and trust. Instead of trying to pretend like you don't ever have that, it's not something that you want to experience, right? It's not something that you haven't experienced. So it's going to be with you. And
Yeah.
like I said, but that's going to roll out in time when you meet the right person. But again, don't go out and try to find that, because that's just a death trap, right? And you're going to just constantly.
That's probably someone bad again. That's all I know.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. But thank you for calling, and thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much.
All righty. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you much. Bye-bye.
And the phone line is open. Yeah, guys, there is a huge addiction that takes place in people's lives, and addiction is something that a lot of people don't quite understand. I think we tend to stay away from addiction. People think that addiction has it just to do with, alcoholics and drugs and people who can't, whatever. But the reality is addiction plays a role in almost all of our lives. Right. And in a lot of ways, addiction, as far as dopamine, things like that, are highly connected to our motivation, what motivates us. So the more we're learning about addiction, the more we're going to be able to understand how to manage these things in our life. Right. You're live on the Royal We.
Hey, Kevin. It's Davion from South Carolina.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing fine. I was listening to the young woman who had just called in, and you guys were talking about addictions.
Right.
I wanted to know, as a Christian, I consider myself to be like a Christian mystic, and a part of what some of my compadres do is we specialize in something called deliverance. And what we've noticed is that a lot of people who have endured sexual abuse, rape, molestation, pre-exposure to pornography, etc., that we believe that sometimes there's a spirit of perversion that enters into people when they partake in certain unnatural, synthetic, carnal, flesh-based activities. So I just wanted to say that I would encourage her and anybody else who has been through any type of sexual abuse, whether it's narcissistic abuse or whether it's just rape or molestation, to actually seek spiritual deliverance, which is something that's kind of different from just going to church on a regular basis. This is kind of something similar almost to an exorcism. I know it sounds very dramatic and it sounds very smoke and mirrors, but there have been a lot of people who have literally been freed from addictive behaviors. Juanita Bynum is another woman that your listeners can look up. She spoke a lot about the spirit of perversion she dealt with after her promiscuity as a single woman, and she got freed from that, and it really kind of blessed her. So there's a lot of ministry and information around people who want to kind of seek that form of remedy for their addiction.
Right.
So I just wanted to say that.
No, that's awesome, man, and I stand in agreement with that. As I was talking about earlier when I was answering the question about the soul ties, it kind of goes with that, being able to speak about it, talk about it, and get prayer about it, which is that deliverance. Because I agree with you, it's on a scientific level, you know what I mean? They like to talk about chemicals and addiction, and they're looking into the body and what happens and different chemicals that are released. But on a spiritual level, you and I know that there's something else going on. Right. And so that's an excellent call. Deliverance is a huge thing, getting a lot of prayer. But a lot of times people will find that sometimes even if you get prayer, you may still struggle with some of these things. You may still struggle with this certain drive. It may never leave, Then again, it can.
And that's why I always encourage both spiritual and natural therapy. Continue to seek spiritual counsel and as well as deal with the psychology of your mind, because you're a three-part being here: your spirit, mind, and body. Mind, body, and soul. So you have that aspect of yourself to deal with, and then you have, as you said, the actual chemical and the neurological changes that you go through that trauma can create, because trauma actually rearranges the neurological input and output of your brain. It actually rewires your brain. So there's an objective part of your brain you need to deal with, and then there's the spiritual aspect of your actual soul and your being that has to be kind of glued and stitched back together. That spirituality and prayer and meditation and all of that can kind of help one mend themselves together. So.
Right. It's a combination of all of that creates that healthy balance. And I believe that, ultimately it's your body wants to find homeostasis, right? It wants to find that balance spiritually and also physically, right? And so
Yes.
we can't fall into this place of over spiritualizing and praying away all of our problems while we physically are not doing anything to change them. Okay, so this is a huge thing. And likewise, you can physically do things to change things, but spiritually be stuck in a rut and depressed and down. So you want to make sure, like you said, just it's a balance. You got to understand both. So thank you. That's an excellent, excellent insight. I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate you, and thank you for all that you do, Kev.
Right on. Thanks, man. All righty. Bye. Yeah, guys, there's a lot, you know, when it comes to understanding even our bodies, our own addictions. You know, even Paul said in the Newer Testament of the Bible, again, if you look from a theological standpoint, he oftentimes said, the things that I will to do, I don't do. The things that I don't want to do are the things that I do. He talked about being in this constant war with his flesh. Oh, wretched man that I am. You know, we all heard these things in his writings, right? There's a lot to be said about that, and I'm gonna get into that in some of the videos that are gonna be coming up soon. You're live on the Royal We.
Hi, my name's Julie. I'm from Oklahoma, and I just wanted to say thank you. I've been dealing on this yo-yo thing with my narcissist, and I've been watching your videos. And it helped so much because he actually invited me to a party on New Year's Eve.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I had basically not much contact with him for about 4 months, but I decided, okay, I'm just going to go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to see who's there. And what I saw was his other supply. And what I saw was his flying monkeys.
Mm-hmm.
And it just put it all into perspective. Everything that you'd been saying on the videos was just like happening right there in front of me, and it enabled me to break away from it all.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just really wanted to say thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that you called to let me know that I do appreciate that. And I would tell you from now on, don't take the invitations though.
Yeah, there's no more invitations needed at all. I saw everything I needed to see. And I walked away just feeling really empowered that I used all the disciplines of love that I know. I went there non-judgmental,
right.
But I just, you know, kind of soaked it all in, and it just, you know, said to my soul, you were right all along. You knew this wasn't right, and now you can walk away and not feel any of the loss.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you for calling. I appreciate that. All righty. Bye. Yeah, you know what, guys? This is I summarize narcissistic abuse like this, guys. It's you and me hanging out with people we have no business hanging out with, doing things we have no business doing, going places we have no business going. This is narcissistic abuse. This is what causes it. We get caught in this trap, and sometimes we end up saying, well, I can go. All right, I'll go. I'll take the invitation. I'll go. Sometimes it ends really badly. We end up having a horrible experience. You know, you can end up being further abused, manipulated, put down. Horrible things can happen. Or in this case, it was a good thing. You can go, sit back, observe, and be reminded, wow, I don't belong here. I don't belong with these people. This is not my people. And let it bring you closure. And what was interesting is in that caller's voice, I was able to hear that you found closure, it seems like. You stepped into this place, and you really realized, man, this is not where I belong, right? This is closure. You found it in yourself. You didn't need the abusive narcissist to apologize. You didn't need for anybody else to say anything. You found the closure yourself, and this is where we need to get. Thank you for calling the Royal We. You're on live. You're going to be our last caller for the night.
All right. Hi, my name is Darla, a.k.a., and I just wanted to thank you, Kevin, for your program and all that you're doing to help people with the issues that we're facing with our narcissistic abuse.
Mm-hmm.
But I also want to take a moment, too, to just encourage everybody. that there is an end to the road, and that seek what you can and get the information you need, and do the no contact thing. I'm 2 months now, no contact with the gentleman that I was with. He had MS, but narcissistic comes in all colors. So it doesn't matter if they have a disease or not. They could still be a narcissist and hide behind that. Hide behind that. But and it was more difficult, I think, for me to leave the situation because he did have the disability. So, I feel so much better. I feel so much healthier being away from that. And, I just wanted to encourage the listeners, too, that, there is hope and there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And it's also allowed me in this time of peace to really regroup and keep my focus on Jesus. And I'm just really thankful for God and His discernment He's given me over the whole thing and the peace that I have now. So
very good. Well, thank you.
I just wanted to share that and just encourage the listeners. Thank you.
Right on. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for calling.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good, guys. Listen, anytime you want to call and just give an encouragement to people, that's a fantastic thing. Especially if you're in a place where you feel you are in a place of recovery, you're better, you have a different insight as to the situation that happened, and breaking free from the abusive situation that you were in. All right, guys. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me tonight on the Royal We, Thursday night. We are going to be back here tomorrow night, Friday night. So if you did not get on the phone tonight, try tomorrow night. We will be here. And then the weekend, we will not be going live. So join me here tomorrow night, 10 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. And I know that for those of you guys in New York, that's pretty late. I understand that. But for those of you in West, California, it's still early. So hopefully it's a good balance. That's what I was going for. All right, guys. So join me every night, Monday through Friday, 10 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on the Royal We. I want to thank you guys for being here tonight. Thank you to the callers who have called. Thank you for pouring your hearts out tonight and for being able to bring healing to the table, hope, and encouragement. Thank you guys also for encouraging each other in the chat. That's a huge part of this. I see you guys talking to each other, lifting each other up, and that's a huge thing because this is an area where people need to be lifted up. They need to be encouraged. They need to be supported and reminded to get out of these abusive situations, to stay away from these toxic environments and toxic people. You guys know that there are still people out there who are struggling, who are torn right now on that very thing, on trying to stay away, on trying to heal. So you play a huge role in that, guys. So thank you very much, and we will be back tomorrow. For those of you guys who are interested in taking the Royal We course, you can find out more about the course by clicking the link in the description box below this video. So simply drop down. You'll see the Royal We course link. Click on that. We'll take you to the course page, and there you can find out all about the Royal We course, where I work with you one-on-one through acceptance and understanding and different aspects of healing from narcissistic abuse. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me here, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow night. Good night, Royal We family, and have a great Thursday night, and have a great day tomorrow.